So if you ever wonder what the blessings of grandchildren are, they are the beauty in our lives. They are this beautiful bouquet. So I thank the grandchildren for doing that for Connie. So on behalf of Connie's family and the faith community here at First, I want to welcome you to the service of celebration and love. So we gather to celebrate Connie's life among us. And indeed, there is a lot to celebrate. She was a woman of substance and brought a lot to her 89 years of living, or as Connie would say, her 90th year. She brought a lot to this thing called life, and she brought a lot to the lives of those who knew and loved her best, her family. So today we gather as a community, a beautiful collection of family, friends, and neighbors. People that help us celebrate the good times and the people that comfort us in the difficult. Connie was a big part of the lives that I see gathered here. And so we light this candle. We light this candle, remembering all that connects us to one another and how very precious that connection is. This candle represents Connie's life. It represents the light that comes when we remember to love one another. And this room is indeed filled with love. Filled with the love that each one has for Connie, and filled with the love that she has for all of us, especially her daughters, her grandchildren, wee Hazel, and the love she had for her sisters and her brother. So this candle is reminding us that love never ends. Love is eternal and strong, and it dares to hope. So may the light of this candle remind us that Connie's love is still here. And as we mourn her passing, may each one of us hold on to the love that we know, since love truly is the most precious gift of all. As the celebration of life unfolds, we will hear memories shared, and there will be laughter at the good times remembered, and there will be tears of grief as we contemplate life without her. Yet together we will remind one another that life is made beautiful not through the big and flashy things, but through small, everyday things. Things like compassion and caring and singing and dancing, as well as taking the time to listen to one another and to support one another, no matter if the times are good or difficult. It is these small things that will heal grief, dry tears, and even change a life if we let it. Because as it turns out, they are not small things at all. They are everything. So we gather in the light of this candle and in the light of Connie's love. And in this gathering, we remind one another that even though today is difficult, comfort and healing will come. It will come because love is here. Let's pray. Holy One, may we be reminded that we are never alone and that nothing is ever lost, only transformed. Be with us in our grief and in our sadness over Connie's death. She has gone from our daily lives, and that is hard. May we find comfort through the sharing of memories and stories, through the sharing of laughter and tears. May we find comfort through this gathering and through the faith that is in us. Connie was light and love. Help us to trust that this light and love is ever with us. Amen. And we're going to sing one of Connie's favorite hymns, In the Garden, and we stand when we sing. I would invite you to stand. You don't have to. seated. And I would like to invite Andrea to share a medley of songs that Connie just adored.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudel, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodle, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into spring. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every
That was magnificent, magnificent. The heart of any celebration of life is when we hear stories and memories of people who knew and loved that person best come up and share. And following the service, there's a time of refreshments, and I would encourage all of you to share your stories of Connie with the family. But at this time, I would like to call Connie's brother, Frank, forward.
I'll tell you the truth, this is very difficult. It's going to be hard. I hope I can get through it. Let me start by quoting from the famous Dr. Seuss, who said, "Don't cry because she's gone. Laugh because she was here." My beautiful punster pal is gone. For decades, Connie and I exchanged puns. We specialized in bad puns. Became quite expert, actually. It was a wonderful, fun obsession in a wonderful, decades-long relationship. That contributed so much to my life. In my loving remembrance of my amazing sister, I didn't know how to handle it, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just take a look at her name, Connie. That's how we know her. So, that's creativity. She was creative in so many ways. I could go on for hours about it. She led a creative life to be admired. The O in her name, well, that obviously stands for outrageous. She did all sorts of crazy, fun, loving, outrageous stuff. I could go on for hours about that, too. The N, I think the best word that captures that is novel. Like she was a true original. Novel. Undertaking all sorts of different novel things in her life. I love that aspect. The N, well, that stands for notable, as in the connections and the friendships that she developed throughout her long life. I mean, it was amazing. How does somebody get to know all of these kind of people? Bob Goulet? I mean, he came over to our house, in Edmonton, hanging out, and that was all because of Connie, of course. Leslie Nielsen, you've all seen him in many movies. That was a friend of hers. They were in high school together. David Foster, you're all familiar with David Foster. And another one that occurred to me recently was the author of Field of Dreams, the greatest baseball movie ever made, was her friend back in Edmonton. And they're remaking that movie now, by the way. And you're probably familiar with it if you're a baseball fan. And notably, she married one of Canada's most innovative recording entrepreneurs in a full partnership that drew upon the equal contributions of each. Ralph Harding. The I in Connie's name could never have been introvert, obviously. But the way to deal with that is let's move on to the next letter, E, extrovert. And that says it all. Her lifelong outgoing extroversion was a wonderful quality that brightened all our lives. I did my PhD dissertation on extroversion. I'm a psychologist. I did it on extroversion, and I'll tell you the truth, I learned much more about the concept by being Connie's brother than by doing a PhD dissertation. It was a waste of time. All I had to do was spend, time with Connie, and I learned it all. In my teen years in Edmonton, Connie was a great source of parties and meeting girls for this testosterone teenager. as she was very active in musical theater and home rehearsals of the troupe she was in. They were called varieties, and in Edmonton, and I used to have all sorts of rehearsals and so on at home in our house. And I got my first serious date through Connie. Thank you, Connie. Through her cast rehearsals that she had at home and all the parties. You could see her career emerging even then toward entertainment and public engagement in one way or another that we saw with her in music, including performance. She was part of an incredible group, the Tops, 4 women, Connie and her sister, my sister, Kay, and 2 other sisters who did performances on television nationally in Canada, and also did gigs in the United States, in Buffalo, for example, and so on. They were a singing group. Connie was one of the members of that group. And then the recording business, she went into that with Ralph, her husband. And I love the amazing art and media efforts that she and Ralph created with their business, Total Recording it was called. I have that right, don't I? The first ever recording studio in Vancouver. So she was not only a performer, but a kind of entrepreneur in the business, the recording business, and a pioneer. They did so many creative things, recording a range of bands and performers whose names you would recognize, and entering an amazing niche market for sound effects production and recording. They provided Hollywood and other demands for outstanding products in the sound effects business. Who would have thought of doing that? She did, and Ralph. And it was very creative. And I have some of their vinyl LPs of all sorts of sound effects recordings that they provided for Hollywood movies. Connie leaves behind a wonderful family of children, grandchildren, and a great-grandchild, Hazel. As Peter Ustinov once said, children are the only form of immortality that we can be sure of. Connie's daughters, Jane, Celia, and Carol, and their families have been such a source of joy in her life, in Connie's life, the last few years in Salmon Arm. Thank you so much from a brother who loved all his sisters. Woody Allen once said, "I know I'm going to die. I just don't want to be there when it happens." Well, Connie didn't know she was there. She passed in her sleep. It was a quiet, painless passage into her next stage, where our family extrovert will soon be performing. Farewell, my punster pal. We will meet again. We will meet again and contend over puns once more. Thank you all.
That was lovely, Frank. Connie did love a dance. And I would like to invite Connie's daughter, Jane, up to say a few words.
Not as graceful as you, but do my best. Hello, my good friends and family, and thank you so much for being here. I am also finding this hard. But she made me do it. She said, "You will do thus and so." And I'm like, okay, I can be obedient when I want to be. So welcome, and thank you for coming to celebrate a terrific human. Our mom, Connie, was a force of nature, living to her 90th year. Every time she had a birthday, she just put it forward a year, just so that we were all aware. She was in her 90th year. And she loved to compare her age to everybody all around her. And we were reminding her it's not actually a competition. I don't think that mattered. In her early years in Alberta, she spent time singing and entertaining. She was just a natural. She was the soloist at many weddings and funerals, and of course in church since the age of 6. She was in local live productions in Edmonton. She sang regularly with Robert Bob Goulet. She was a lifeguard at Sylvan Lake. She was a model, a comptometer operator, a phone operator at Alberta Telephone. She worked at the local Edmonton radio station, CFRN, with the producers of the time. Pretty ahead of your time for that. She was a woman in a man's world, for sure. And then she also did backup singing in the commercials and stuff, because it was all live, right? And then she met my dad and married my dad in 1958, and us kids came along in 59, 60, and 63. In 1967, they moved the whole family west to British Columbia because Toronto was getting very busy and congested in 1967. Yeah. Settling in Deep Cove in North Vancouver, and then later to proper Vancouver, Kerrisdale, and then to the Dunbar area, and then to Capilano, Edgemont Village in North Vancouver. And they loved to just move around. And those were years that we moved with, and that doesn't count what happened after. So in her middle years, she was a busy mom of 3, and we sisters laugh at some of the advice over the years. Just put on some lipstick and go out there and be your best self. That's helpful. That's helpful. At the time, it seemed really silly, and I can't tell you how many times I stand there and go, reaching for the lipstick. It's gonna be fine. Sometimes that's all you can do, right? Wisdom. We watched her do it many times amid many challenges. She would say things like, you don't have to be like the other girls. Why would you want to? You're special and independent. Find what you love to do and do that. Never rely on a man for something you can do yourself. She was an early feminist, for sure. She was, like my uncle says, a full-time partner with my mom in all of his various music businesses, including building the first recording studio in 1967 in Vancouver. She worked at Downtown Toyota on Burrard Street in Vancouver for a time in administration. That's how all of us girls got our first car. They used to call them the cream puff cars, driven by the little old lady and turned in on another vehicle while they became our cars. It was awesome. She never wanted us to be left in a situation where we couldn't get home or we couldn't leave if we wanted to. Hence the quarter for your sock or whatever it was. There was always FU money, she would say. Here's some FU money. Okay. She worked for a time at Grouse Mountain Ski Resort in the office there, and one year they laid everybody off, and she was so mad. She liked to say that she put a hex on them, and clearly for 3 years they had no snow. And she takes total credit for that. Both our parents were pioneers and entrepreneurs. Eventually, they made their way to Chemainus on Vancouver Island and purpose-built a B&B. They called it the Loyalist, as Mum's family could be traced to the United Empire Loyalists in Goderich, Ontario, making her 5th-generation Canadian, and myself and my sister's 6th, and on and on. It's pretty amazing stuff. Mum and Dad were super busy with the B&B for about 10 years, and then Mum decided one day, she goes, you know, I'm really tired of doing laundry. I'm really tired of cleaning and cooking breakfast for other people. And I'm really tired of being nice all the time. So she retired again. During her time in Chemainus, she sang and acted in various musical theater productions over the years, and I always looked forward to the invitation to come and see she and Dad in whatever was the latest show at the beautiful Chemainus Theater. She was in Brigadoon, Iolantha, The Music Man, and more. And as time went on, she found a new interest when she decided she couldn't quite remember all the words to everything, join the club. She started costuming. And she started making costumes for all of these huge events. And it was amazing. And She was so talented, such a great way to say that. And so the homage by having Andrea sing those beautiful pieces, she would have loved that. About this time, the grandkids started coming along. My kids, Graham and Michael, Carol's boys, Anthony, Mark, and Chris, a little later, and the only granddaughter, Nicole, born to Celia. Later, when I remarried, there were step-grands, Tammy, Rick Jr., Crystal, and TJ. And they all loved to come to the B&B, to the 5-acre property that it sat on, and explore and help Grandpa in the yard and play with Mom's chickens, Rhode Island Reds with names that were Red, Helen Reddy, Rosemary Clooney. You get it. They all had names. And they all had access to the B&B. You'd turn around and they're, get out. Over the years, she had many stories to tell, both of her time in Toronto and Vancouver back in the day. A lot of publishing and management and signing of new contracts and acts to recordings took place in Buffalo, Nashville, Cleveland. I know. Mom and Dad met when Dad caught Mom's show of the girl group, right, the Tops, and he made a call for a date with one of the other girls. Mom answered the phone and said, "Jackie was not available. Would I do?" The rest is history. They had lots of run-ins with celebrities over the years. Mom was taught to do the twist by Rita Moreno in Buffalo. Rita said Mom was too stiff in the hips, and she said, "Hey, Canada, let me show you how it's done." And they spent a fun evening together, and Mom was the best twister I ever saw. While we were producing at the studio, there always seemed to be a starving artist to feed. We hosted dinners for all kinds of up-and-comers, including, just to name a few, Ian and Sylvia Tyson, Tom Northcott, Terry Jacks, Tom Lavin and the Powder Blues, the Hudson Brothers, which she said later wished they had told her they were vegetarians. So she's like, "Lots of salad tonight, girls, lots of salad." Okay, it was fun. You never knew who you would find asleep on the couch in the morning at your house. They were amazing people that way. Everybody's welcome, all the time, day or night. When Diana Ross came to town for concerts in Vancouver, she would pop by the studio to rent the giant speakers and part of the engineer's board and various other equipment, sometimes staff, from the studio, because bands in those days didn't travel with a giant entourage, right? They would just come to town, and we had the best studio, the best speakers. So they would rent them. Sonny and Cher would often just check in when they came to Canada. My dad is written up in David Foster's autobiography, Hitman. Dad mentored him, right, in his early career. And of course, Mom was right there supporting all the work that happened in the family business. Their 3 daughters, myself and Celia and Carol, were told never to date a musician. It was frowned upon. And all 3 of us are very musical people, never encouraged to be on stage, though. Mom always said, "Tough gig." Okay. There was a time when Dad was bringing shows to Canada from Britain, and our favorite was the popular A Breath of Scotland. Mom was totally the support person here in Canada and often toured with the group. There were pipers and accordion players and Scottish dancers and singers and comedians. Another opportunity to wake up to snoring giant Scotsmen on the floor of your living room. Again, the most generous people on the planet. When you were her friend, it was for life. She loved to chat with folks in line at the grocery store, make funny faces at children in strollers, sing loudly to correct your interpretation of any given song that she knew. And she knew a lot of songs. We used to laugh and say she knows every word to every song ever written, and it was pretty close. Often the sisters and I, if we were helping in the kitchen, one would start a song, the others would chime in till we had 4-part harmony going. Then, of course, came the soft shoe shuffle that went along with, or lessons in tap dancing done in the kitchen or on the back deck. She taught Nikki how to tap dance on the back deck. I love that. We were a noisy bunch altogether, and I've noticed that we've all been gathering here yesterday. The noise level was up here. It was like, ah! That's just who we are, the extroverts that we are. She loved animals of all kinds, cats, dogs, horses, birds. Family pets adored her, and she would carry on long conversations with them all, even doing the little voices, right? It was so much fun. We always had a dog or a cat, or a dog and a cat growing up, and all 3 of us have homes with dogs and sometimes cats. She chatted with all the birds that came to the yard, And we had been known to stake out an osprey nest here locally until we saw the wee heads pop over the edge of the nest. In the last few years, Mom and I would drive to one of the local farms and just sit on the road in the car with carrots. And we would feed the horses, and she would commune with them for hours. That was a treat. She was a voracious reader. I remember many times looking for her and finding her in a corner with a book. There were books all over the house. It didn't matter where you sat, there was a book, open, spine cracked, and ready to go. She particularly loved, in the last few years, Canadian author Louise Penny, and related closely, for those of you that have read her, to the character Ruth Zardo. Crazy old poet laureate, right? And she just thought, and she could do the voices and talk to the duck. It was hilarious. She was also a knitter, creating many warm outfits for everyone in the family over the years. Imagine her joy when we took up listening to audiobooks, Louise Penny, while knitting. Her two favorite things at the same time, rapture. It was awesome. She loved to do jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles, read about clans and tartans, and socialize. She was a self-proclaimed terrible cook, but baking was a triumph. She had an excellent sense of humor. It was witty, a little oblique, bawdy, full of puns, and double entendre. She loved to laugh and found fun in most things. She was also known to drop a few F-bombs because it always brought up people short. What did I hear her say? And then she'd laugh and laugh. She was generous to a fault. Dad would say, do not compliment her outfit or you'll find it tucked in your bag on the way home. She was one of those people who would literally give you the shirt off her back, the food off her plate, whatever it was. If she felt you needed it or wanted it, it was yours. She liked to carry cash around so she could give it away to the folks in need as we walked through town. She would, where's my money? And she would have her money in her pocket. There was always room for extras at our table growing up. Friends, strangers, neighbors. It's not lost on me that growing up with generous parents has made all three of their daughters into folks that want to help others and have become good citizens of the world. She was definitely a monarchist. Oh my goodness, you'd think she and the Queen. She followed the Queen and the royal family like they were her best friends. She spoke with authority about all things royal. There was a time in the 1970s and 80s where Mum and Dad's music production publishing company, Total Recording, represented BBC Records and Tapes for Canada. Well, Mum was invited to London on the occasion of Prince Charles and Lady Diana's wedding in 1981. The BBC invited her to witness the event and then to take the newly minted master tape back to Canada for duplication and distributing. It was a thing back then, pre-internet, pre-World Wide Web. She sat beside Christine, the producer, at the BBC in the sound booth and watched the wedding. And many of you will remember that Diana flubbed her lines, right? Her new husband's name. So when she repeated her vows, and instead of saying Charles Philip Arthur George, said Charles Arthur Philip George, horrors. So Christine put in a call to the Queen. So Christine is calling the Queen like this, and Mum is right here. Try and keep her away. So she's hanging on the edge of her seat. So Christine says, hello, Your Majesty. The Queen says, oh, yes, hello, Christine. And Christine goes, I'm sure you've noticed the little mistake in the vows regarding Charles' full name. The Queen, oh, yes. Christine, would you like to correct it? If so, we have to do it now before the master is complete. Silence. No, Christine. They made the mistake. They will have to live with it. Christine, yes, ma'am, and hung up. They finished setting up the master, put it in the can, so to speak. Mum put it under her arm, headed for the airport back to Vancouver, and so the royal wedding was added to the BBC collection, available in Britain and Canada first. She knew and could sing all the words to Canada's first national anthem, The Maple Leaf Forever. I only know the chorus. She knows all of it. She could be compelled to sing it anywhere and anytime. She loved her family. When Anthony and Jade had baby Hazel, who is now 3, Mom was thrilled to become a great-grandmother, and she would brag to anyone who would listen, and then she would say, like I had anything to do with it. She also enjoyed her step-grands, Kane, Zeke, Maddie, and Holden in Kelowna, and Jessica, Angela, Aiden, and Asher at home down at the coast. Always room for more to love, she would say. Kane coined her nickname GigiCon. She loved it. She said it made her feel like one of the cool kids. GigiCon. After our dad died in 2013, she stayed in Sydney and continued leading the Summergate Singers and singing at care homes and special events in the area. She loved to hang out with her sister Joan, who lived right down the street. I'm sure they spent a lot of time solving the world's problems. Eventually, she was invited and accepted the invitation to come to Salmon Arm and live with me. Did I tell you she was a determined person? She had been a smoker for over 70 years. When she arrived here in November 2019, I informed her there would be no smoking in the house. Well, coat, hat, boots, cigarette outside. She did that for a couple of weeks and then informed me she'd quit forever. She quit after 70 years. Yeah, I'm not going out in the effing snow to smoke a cigarette. Okay. She delighted in being able to see her grandchildren more often, as some of them lived here and the others no longer had to take a ferry to go and see Grandma. And when granddaughter Hazel came along, well, all was right with the world. She helped me set up and run my now Airbnb, had lots of tips on hospitality and cleaning and such. Being an over-the-top extrovert, made a point of visiting and connecting with all the guests that she could. I would often find her on the back deck, talking with the guests about Canada, Tartan, Edmonton, family, BC, the shoe swap, pets, anything else that came to mind. She was good at making people feel comfortable and to make them feel like they were at home. And over the years, I learned a lot about hosting parties, setting the table and entertaining folks at dinner, and making the perfect cup of tea. She loved living in the shoe swap, not only because she had her daughter so close to hand, but she was able to reconnect with church and make new friends, and of course, keep singing. It crossed my mind that when Queen Elizabeth died last year, Mom thought, okay, that's it, mic drop, and went right out the door behind her. Gosh, Mom, you gave so much of yourself to us. And we are so grateful for you and for your life and the legacy that you leave. Well done, good and faithful servant. I always think of the lyrics, Canadian artist Jan Arden. I've got a good mother. Her voice is what keeps me here. Feet on ground, heart in hand, facing forward. Be yourself. Put on a little lipstick. Amen.
Lovely. So another gift of music, we're going to hear Andrea sing Good Mother.
I've got But if you knew me, you'd know I've got a good father, and his strength is what makes me cry. Feet on ground, heart in hand, facing forward, be yourself. I've never wanted anything, no, I never wanted anything so bad, so bad. I've got money in my pocket. I like the color of my hair. I've got a friend who loves me. I've got a house, I've got a car. I've got a good mother, and her voice is what keeps me here. She said, feet on the ground, heart in hand, facing forward, be yourself.
That was beautiful. Thank you. I'm regretting my decision to wear mascara today. We're going to see some pictures from Connie's life. beautiful family. Celia, I'd like to invite Celia up to do a couple of readings.
Hi, everyone. Celia, middle child. And welcome to everyone who could not be here in person. We really appreciate that you're here with us as well. Going to start off with 1 Corinthians 1 to 13. If I speak in the tongues of men or angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am now fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And Mom did love her poems. So, going to read first for the dying. Bit of a long one. May death come gently toward you, leaving you time to make your way through the cold embrace of fear to the place of inner tranquility. May death arrive only after a long life to find you at home among your own, and with every comfort and care you require. May your leave-taking be gracious, enabling you to hold dignity through awkwardness and illness. May you see the reflection of your life's kindness and beauty in all the tears that fall for you. As your eyes focus on each face, may your soul take its imprint, drawing each image within as companions for the journey. May you find for each one you love a different locket of jeweled words, to be worn around the heart to warm your absence. May someone who knows and loves the complex village of your heart, but there to echo you back to yourself and create a sure word raft to carry you to the future shore. May your spirit feel the surge of true delight when the veil of the visible is raised and you glimpse again the living faces of departed family and friends. May there be some beautiful surprise waiting for you inside death, something you never knew or felt, which, with one simple touch, absolves you of all loneliness and loss as you quicken within the embrace for which your soul was eternally made. May your heart be speechless, and the sight of the truth of all your belief had hoped, your heart breathless in the light and lightness, where each and everything is at last its true self, within that serene belonging that dwells beside us on the other side of what we see. And finally, I miss my mother, which I dearly do. Me, I miss my mother sometimes really bad. Old woman, maybe try missing her really well. Me, how do I do that? Old woman, see that sunrise? See how beautiful the colors are? how clear and clean the air feels, how good it feels inside of you? Me. Yes, it's wonderful. Old woman. She lives in that. So maybe just say, thanks, Mom, when you see and feel things like that. I miss my mother really well now.
And let's sing. So here we are, gathered in a place that Connie knew well. As I look out at all of you, my eyes naturally drift to where, in my mind's eye, I can see her sitting. She sat there on any given Sunday. In my mind's eye, I can see her sitting there looking glamorous with her red lipstick and her cute haircut, listening to the singing and not missing a trick on what was going on around her. But when I look out there, she's not there. And that makes me sad. But I know that everyone in this room, especially her family, is sad today. It's no small thing to mourn the death of a mom, a sister, a grandmother, a friend. And for as long as you, her family, have been walking this earth, Connie has been a constant presence in your life. Her love, her smile, and her very Connie way of being a source of support and a constant in your life. So with her death, there is now a hole in the fabric of your life, a hole where Connie used to be. And that's hard, and it's difficult, and it's sad. So it's natural to have our eyes fill with tears, and I heartily recommend letting them flow as often as you are able. Tears are good. But we have come to celebrate Connie's life, so it's also natural to have smiles and laughter today as well. I loved your reflections. Beautiful. That's the Connie I was privileged to have met. Connie had a spark and a joy of living that was undeniable. To say she was a bit of a character is not an inaccurate statement, but neither is it quite accurate. Because she was Connie. I think Jane called her a force of nature. She was just Connie. She was a woman with definite opinions, and she didn't mind sharing them with you at any time. She loved to laugh, she loved to have fun, and she often had a twinkle in her eye that bespoke of a well-lived life, a life where a little mischief was well managed. When I think of Connie, I can't help but remember some of the stories about her life that she would share with me. Jane would be off in the kitchen, I don't know, probably fetching my supper or something. But Connie would share stories, and these stories were often about one time or another in her life, mostly the good times. She liked to share the good stories. I heard how as a child growing up in Alberta with her siblings, she was a speed skater, a bit of an adventurer. Well, we saw that in the pictures. And she was a granddaughter that adored her grandmother. Growing up, she would say that she knew what winter was and how to stay warm, even when the frigid air of an Albertan winter was trying to bite her face off, right? She knew how to stay warm. Yet among all of the stories, the ones I loved best were the stories of how she was a performer and a singer and how she sang with some of Canada's best. And so it was through Connie's stories that I kind of had my own little brush with fame. Like every human everywhere, there were difficult times in Connie's life, times where she had to dig in, to take a stand or persevere. Because no one gets through this life totally unscathed, and Connie was no exception. The time she would talk about her grandson Michael and the pain of his loss was evident. But Connie tried to navigate these times best as she could, and if not always with ease or without a few missteps, certainly with grace. Always keeping in mind the joy of life and the love of family, especially the love of her 3 daughters. She was determined, as stories go, to raise her girls to be strong and capable women. Women who could navigate their lives with their own bit of feistiness and sense of adventure, and I dare say, a wee bit of mischief. If you spend any time with any one of the Harding sisters, then you know that Connie did right by the feistiness, right? And those 3 certainly did right by Connie. The last years of Connie's life were good years. She thoroughly enjoyed living with Jane and having Carol and Celia move close. That was a gift to her. And in so many ways, it was the love and care given to her over the last few years that enabled her to have a quality of life that I don't think she would have had otherwise. And I know that Connie loved her girls and her whole family very deeply. Whenever she would speak of her daughters or her grandchildren, it was easy for me to see the love that she had for them. And when all is said and done, love is the only thing that truly matters, right? The love Connie had for you and the love that you had for her. Nothing else matters. Only love matters. So on this day, while it's not hard to celebrate her life, it is hard to begin the process of letting her go. You loved her and she loved you. That is a win in this thing called life by any standards. But when you love someone, it hurts when they are no longer physically present with you. You miss them, and you miss them a lot. And I know you are deeply grieving your mom, your sister, your grandma, your friend. And at times like this, it's sometimes hard to know exactly how to feel or exactly what to do or how on earth are you ever going to find comfort. Which is why the passage from 1 Corinthians was read. In this passage, we are reminded that of all the things we humans sometimes feel are so important, things like our philosophies, our opinions, or our take on a given situation, the most important thing ever and only is love. And through those ancient words comes a reminder that we all exist within a universe and have lives that sometimes feel deeply mysterious. And while in life we may be confused at times, not sure what the next step for us might be, we only need to remember this passage. It's clear. The only thing we need to remember is to love. So to love this way is to be kind with yourself and with others. To love is to remember to love your life and to celebrate your days. To love is to have compassion for those who are struggling. To love is to have hope, the audacity of having hope. Hope that sadness ends, that new life comes. For me, perhaps the most powerful part of this passage is the part about how love never ends. Love is eternal. The love that you had for Connie and the love that she had for you is still present in your life. It's still there. It's real. It's tangible. Her love is there to inform your conscience and guide your choices and, of course, remind you, if you need reminding, to sing and to dance and to have as much fun and joy as possible. Her love is here to remind you to be strong when you need to be so that you too might persevere no matter the difficulty, but is also here to remind you to be soft whenever you can. Love is powerful. Love will see you through. Hold on to the love that is in your life and be loving in your life in return. One final thought. Our faith teaches us that death is never the end, that there is only life after life. And while I know it's sometimes hard to hold on to that truth when you're sad, I would encourage you to trust that it is indeed so. There will come a time, like our brother Frank said, that we will see Connie again. But until that day comes, trust that God, who is love, will be with her and will hold her precious and close in love and in care. Trust, too, that God is holding each one of you in love and care as well. That new life, a fresh start, a new way will open up for each and every one of you. That there will come a time when grief will heal and comfort will be yours, but until then, your only task is to love. And Connie, I just want to say, well done, my friend. You lived your life well, mischief managed. You sang your life song beautifully and well, and we love you. And let us pray. Loving God, we gather knowing just how precious life is and how love sustains us even in the most difficult of circumstances. So today we join our hearts and give thanks for all the blessings of life, for the blessings that is found in community, for the blessing of friends, for the blessing that is laughter and joy. For all of that, we thank you. For the people who share our lives and walk through this world by our side, most especially our families and loved ones, we thank you heartily. Today we give our thanks for Connie, a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a sister, a neighbor, and a friend. We thank you for her beautiful and feisty spirit, for her keen sense of humor, and for her warmth. We thank you for the person she was and for the difference she made in our lives. Most of all, we thank you for the love she gave and the love she received, and for all that lives on through those who knew and loved her best, her family. And we are thankful that for Connie, death is past, pain is ended, and that she has entered into the joy of your presence. So it is, God of compassion and comfort, we pray for Connie's family, especially for her daughters, Jane, Celia, and Carol, and her siblings, Frank, Joan, and Kay, and for her most beloved grandchildren and great-granddaughter, and for all who claim and are a part of this wonderful family. May each one of them feel your presence surround them today. May they experience comfort through the words we share with them and the love we have for them and our love for Connie. God be with us all. Grant us a vision of our life and work in this world so that each one of us might find our way forward and walk in the ways of beauty, truth, joy, and love. Amen. And the choir is going to share a song. and let us sing.
Called by earth and sky, promise of hope held high. This is our sacred living trust, treasure of life sanctified. Called by earth and sky, precious is waters and seas, deep oceans dream, waters of healing, rivers of rain, the wash of love again. Called by earth and sky, promise of hope held high. This is our sacred living trust, treasure of life sanctified. Called by earth and sky, precious this gift, the air we breathe, wind born and free, breath of the Spirit blow through this place, our gathering and our praise. Called by earth and sky, promise of hope held high. This is our sacred living trust, treasure of life sanctified. Called by earth and sky, precious these mountains, ancient steps, past fragile land, seeds of our waking, rooted and strong, creation's faithful song. Called by earth and sky, promise of hope held high. This is our sacred living trust, treasure of life sanctified. Called by earth and sky, precious the fire of night's away, bright dawning day, fire of passion, swords of love, our faith and justice done. Called by earth and sky, promise of hope held high. This is our sacred living trust, treasure of life sanctified. Called by earth and sky, called by earth and sky.
Please remain standing as you are able. Holy One, in faith that with you there is only life after life, we commend our dear Connie, a woman much loved and greatly missed, to your love and care. And so, Connie, we say to you, go forth on your journey. Go peacefully into that abiding place prepared for us. Go gently into God's deeper presence. Go confidently into that communion of saints surrounding us all. And may they hold you precious until we meet again. And to all of you, God be your comfort and your strength. God be your hope and your support. May love be the light which shows you the way forward. And may the blessing of God be with you today, tomorrow, and always. Amen.